All right, 7:47. We've got several folks on the line here. Thank you for joining. Welcome to the Exit Planning Institute Twin Cities chapter meeting. This is our regular August meeting, and I am Mark Hegstrom, and I will be your new chapter president. Last month, our steering committee met and went over several things, one of which was to pass the gavel from Julie Keys, who has been our chapter's founding president since 2016. We had an opportunity to review her illustrious career as our chapter president. One thing that we did was that we noted was that she earned our chapter the highest ranking of all chapters in the United States for Exit Planning Institute chapters. So, Julie, you have been a great leader. Thank you for all you have done for us and your fearless leadership, that keeping us enrolled and rallied and all that. And I wonder if you have a few remarks that you'd like to make.
Sure, absolutely. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to be here and to reconvene the EPI chapter, even though we're having to meet virtually. I'm happy to be able to say that I think that Mark Hegstrom is going to make a fine chapter president. This was really the decision that was made on my part. EPI wanted me to wait to pass this on, the leadership on, until the pandemic was over, but no one really knew when that was going to happen, and I felt that 4 years was probably long enough. Mark's going to do a fantastic job, and I'm still going to be involved. I'll still be on the leadership team. But as you probably know, or many of you know, my practice is expanding quite a bit, and I have a lot on my plate with my new book and my podcast show, which is has become quite popular. So I hope that you can join me sometime. Listen to the Poised for Exit podcast show. You can find information about the book and the podcast show at poisedforexit.com. But in the meantime, we're here. We are an active chapter. Not all chapters are active. I was literally in a virtual meeting yesterday with EPI Global, and it was one of the SEPA courses, masterclass that they had the students all assembled, and it was a Q&A, and I think, Mark, you participated in one of those once. And so they asked people that are on the faculty to participate and share stories and answer questions and things like that. And I just, basically reiterated what I normally do about exit planning and about how important it is to continue to collaborate, especially now more than ever. Staying involved in the chapter and focusing on collaboration, which is what we're talking about today with someone who's an expert in collaboration, and you're going to enjoy him very much. He's a national speaker with NSA. I don't want to steal your thunder, Mark, if you were planning on introducing Mike, but I know Mike through the National Speakers Association, and he's also a CPA among many other designations, CVA, which of course is huge in our industry. And Mark, I'll just turn it back over to you. I just want to thank everybody for your participation, for being involved in the chapter, for staying involved in the chapter. Please do that going forward, and let's just continue to work together, collaborate, grow the chapter, and grow exit planning as an industry.
Amen. Thank you, Julie, and thank you again for all your leadership. And we know you're going to always still be around. And again, that was that website poisedforexit.com.
Yes, right.
That's
the book in the podcast website. It's not my consulting practice is Key Strategies still, but right. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Good. All right. Well, I would like to thank and introduce our sponsors. I think next time what we're going to do is we're going to open up our sponsors to be able to give a commercial. I don't think we have that set up the way I see it right now, so we won't be able to hear from them. but I will list them. I think we've got a slide here too that lists them out, their logos and what have you. It should loop through. Matt Hartraff, he is from Loman Abdo. I think I butchered your last name. I'm sorry about that. I met Matt last week or last month. Great guy, very knowledgeable, an attorney that you could feel confident in reaching out to if you have some questions. Terry Kervosha from Maslin, another law firm. They presented last week, and or last month, or the month before rather, and we appreciated that. We also have Sean Sima, and Sean is a CPA. He is also our IT director for our chapter, and when we do go live, and I think that we will one day, and it's, at least we're going to be virtual through the end of the year, but someday I know we're going to come on back, and Sean will be putting our stuff live streamed on the internet and YouTube as well as us doing it live. So Susan Stiles of Stiles Financial Services. Susan's been a long-time member. They help business owners with 401k plans, financial planning, and wealth management. Chris Jones and Brett Engelbrecht of Sunbelt Business Advisors are perennial sponsors. We thank you for that. Sunbelt is a business broker, and I would invite you to talk to them about their process. I had a chance to have a client on yesterday. We had several business brokers, and we had a series of interviews, and Brent and Chris were both speakers on their interview, and it was a great opportunity. We did this through Zoom, and it was a really neat way to do it. So I invite you to check that out. Bob Georges of Wilkerson Guthman CPA firm. Bob is also on our steering committee and is a very knowledgeable person, and we appreciate all that he does. So those are our sponsors that are registered today. We also have some new folks who are joining us for the first time, and I have a couple of names highlighted here. Douglas Cook is new to our meeting. He's from Headwaters Strategic Succession Consulting, and that sounds like quite a mouthful. I look forward to finding out more about you, Doug, and thank you for being here. We also have Robert Oliver, and Robert is a collaborative business partner representative, and we look forward to meeting with you. This meeting is perfect for you. We're going to talk all about collaboration, not only today, but next month as well. We also have Grant Wacker, who is, or Walker perhaps, is from Merrill Private Wealth. I presume that is a financial planning, wealth management office, and welcome. We appreciate your being here as well. And I think there's one more, and I'm afraid I don't have that on here, but we welcome you and all of our returning members. So thank you for that. I am going to next introduce our speaker, and in a second I'm going to give him control here. As you can see him pictured here, Mike Gregory first learned about collaboration a few minutes after he was born with his twin brother, Mark, when he entered the world and began to share the world with his 4 siblings. He quickly learned in life that it's not about me. It's about we. It's about people, and it's about processes. Today, you will learn how to take advantage of the collaboration effect. When you take advantage of the collaboration effect, you will enhance relationships, resources, and revenues. Taking collaboration to the next level, you will enhance your happiness while reaping rewards on all fronts. With over 25 years of management experience on all levels, working with neuroscientists, as an avid researcher with 11 books and over 35 published articles, a BS, MS, and MBA, and 2 little grandchildren that he has the pleasure of playing with on a weekly basis, Mike shares with you what he has learned and gives you tools that you need to apply the collaboration effect in your work, home, and life. We have to work with difficult people, and we have to work through change. There are techniques that you can use to minimize this pain. Today, you will learn how to work through change, even with difficult people, by taking advantage of the collaboration effect. Do you want to learn more? Let's welcome Mike Gregory and learn more about the collaboration effect. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. I want to say hello to Julie Keys here too. It was my pleasure to work with her with the National Speakers Association. I have a lot of respect for her. It's nice to have met you here as well, Mark. And I'm looking forward to our presentation here today. I'm going to share our screen now at this point.
All right.
And bring up the view. And Mark, do you see me okay?
I got you perfectly.
Good. And do you see one slide on the screen?
Perfect.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. I guess a question I have for you is, as you take a look at what you do as an exit planner, what I'm going to talk to you about today related to exit planning and collaboration, 95% of what I'm going to say you already know. But hopefully you'll pick up some tidbits here today, and you have a one-page summary sheet at the end I'll go over with you, and you can put on, I'm hoping, 3 action items of something that can help you going forward relative to collaboration. Now, you heard the introduction here just a moment ago, and you heard that I have a twin brother. His name is Mark. That's Mike on the left. That's Mark on the right. Well, I'm one of 5 children, and we are numbers 4 and 5. So there aren't a whole lot of pictures, and they aren't necessarily all that clear. But this is the 2 of us at the age of 2. And at that point, we were already learning to row the boat. Now, we all know about the football coach at the University of Minnesota and row the boat. And we know that he has a trademark on that. So I have to acknowledge that's his trademark. But well ahead of his trademark, my mom had us working together on how can we collaborate and work with each other. And that's been something that's been with me my whole life. And it's been something that I've now worked on going forward. So today, here's what we're going to do. We're going to define what the collaboration effect is. It's very simple. We're going to name some additional sources for connecting. We're going to not actually practice an active listening device. We talked about doing this and having a breakout room, but there were some technical reasons why that's not happening today, but I'll talk about that with you here virtually. I'm going to ask you to develop your own action plan with some things you can do going forward, and then you can apply this at work, at home, and at life. And again, collaboration isn't something new. It's an old light bulb. It's an old idea. It's been around a long time, but I'm going to give you some elements from neuroscience, current research in neuroscience that can help you going forward. The collaboration effect is all about enhancing relationships with others. You're all in the relationship business. We're in a service business. And in a service business, you know it's about connecting relationships. We're going to talk about that a little bit. It's also about reducing the loss that we have in resources. That is the rework or the negative that takes place when things don't go well. When we have abutments against one another, when things aren't working out all that well, that wastes resources. It has a mental toil, it has a physical toil on us, and it costs money. And it's all about when we collaborate, we can have greater revenues. If you want to have greater revenues, you want to be more productive, you want to feel better about what you're doing, collaboration is the way that we do it. I said it's a very simple idea. It's the action of working with someone to produce or create something. Now, communication is just working together, talking with each other, but with collaboration, we have a goal. We are focusing on something. It's important we stay focused on that goal. There's a book that I am a collaborator with. I'm one of the contributors that just came out the last week of July. It's called One Habit for a Thriving Home Business. And that book was #1 on Amazon on all categories for new book releases at the end of July. Well, someone reached out to me, the author, Steve Sambliss, and he asked if I would contribute into that book. So there were 100 of us that collaborated to come up with that text. And who would have thought it went to #1 on Amazon with the first week? I wouldn't have thought that would happen, but the timing was good with where we are working from home today. That's an example of someone reaching out and asking, you want to collaborate with me on this, and not knowing if it's going to work or not. It's a risk, it's something new, but that's an example. And you do this every day with your own work. And you know, by networking with others and collaborating and working with others, we can be more successful. And the collaboration process is really basic. It's about discovering something new. I just gave you the example with the book, One Habit for a Thriving Home Business. It's about engaging with others. So when we talk about engaging and connecting with others, it means really connecting and learning something about them that you can connect with and relate to with one another. You know this. Well, and we're not going to spend much time on that, but you know that you have to really find a way to connect with someone else. And you need to be creative with what you're doing. You have your standard thing that you do, but you need to be creative and find ways that will work collectively with others to collaborate, to come up with a better solution as you learn additional information. And there's many things we don't know about each other's roles in exit planning. And so the more you can learn about what others do and how they do it, you can become not an expert because you're working with another expert, but you can leverage what you've learned, understand the jargon better, and be a better solution provider for your ultimate client. But that involves a strategy of saying we have to actually make an effort to do this. We need to meet collectively, not separately with the ultimate client. And if you can form a team to do this, and you as a team work together for that client becomes your best advocate going forward. And the results are going to come. And when the results come, it'll reinforce this. So if you want to be more productive, make more money, satisfy customers with a higher quality product, collaboration is the key. That's why the Exit Planning Institute, that's why the Estate Planning Council push collaboration, and the estate planning councils actually have a course on that. And I was asked to critique that course. And I came up with some concepts and ideas based on neuroscience to enhance that class going forward. And we're going to share some of those elements with you here today. So the collaboration effect, I said it's all about enhancing relationships with others, really connecting with them. It's about enhancing resources on reducing costs and being able to leverage working with each other and being more productive by not having wasted time. If somebody really doesn't want to work with you as a client, you don't want to waste your time there. If somebody doesn't really want to work with you collaboratively, you don't want to waste your time there. You want to make those kind of decisions earlier. And it's about enhancing revenues. So as we help each other, we provide these resources, we enhance our revenues and those of our other teammates. So it's all about connecting relationships, really finding a way to connect. And when I say connecting relationships, for me today, that means when I have somebody new who I'm going to be meeting with, I'm doing a mediation in Pennsylvania starting on Monday. It's a $3 million difference between two parties. I'm a business valuer in background. I'm a mediator with the Supreme Court here in Minnesota. I've done 2,500 mediations and negotiations in my career. And as we start with that, before I do anything, I go online and I find out things about the attorney and on both sides, and the client on both sides, and the business valuers on both sides. And I'm trying to learn all I can from them on LinkedIn and a host of other sources. And then I'll meet and talk with the attorney and the client first. And then I'll have a follow-up meeting with the attorney, the client, and the business valuer second, on both sides, before we ever actually begin any mediation, because I'm trying to develop a connecting relationship. In your world, you want to develop a connecting relationship with your peers that you're working with. You want to develop a connecting relationship with that client. And that client probably has a trusted advisor, and you want to develop a connecting relationship with that trusted advisor. And to do that, you need to listen actively. You know so much, and you have so much you want to share, but that's not necessarily what your client needs or wants. So I'm going to ask you to focus on being interested, not on being interesting. That's an important distinction. You want to focus on being interested. You want to listen to the other party. You want to paraphrase, summarize, ask open-ended questions, and empathize. You want to actively listen. There's a book written by a guy named John Baker. I heard him speak in January. John Baker has a book, Getting What You Want. He's the former CEO and president of Shearson American Express. That's a Fortune 100 company, and he was there for 10 years as the president. Now, in today's world, we don't have CEOs and presidents that are around for 10 years. Maybe 3, maybe 5 on a major organization, usually less, but he was there 10 years. And he's taken what he did there and written this book, and it comes down to 3 things. And the 3 things that he say are know what you want, ask for it, and have 3 reasons why. We'll get into that maybe a little later. But you have to listen actively, and then close your mouth and listen and answer the questions that they have, not what you necessarily want to spout with how smart you are and all the things you know. And then you need to educate judiciously. I ran a group once of 21 experts for 7 years, testifying in court. We had 10 to 12 cases docketed at any one given time. We were an expert litigation group. And when I ran that group, I learned you need to educate the court. That is, I need to put this in the way that the either judge or jury can understand. You watch these TV dramas and they all have a lot of action that takes place up there with testimony and various things. And I come back and say, actually, you're there to build a relationship with that decision maker. And you do that by educating them with, again, the way they want to hear it. We can take very complex subjects and present them in ways that are very simple, that even a 5th grader can understand these very complex issues. And that's what educating judiciously is all about. And that's what you want to do. You want to educate as the person would like to hear it. So when you connect relationships and there's listening actively and there's educating judiciously, that allows you to build bridges that lead to negotiating closure. There's a famous Chinese general named Sun Tzu, and he wrote a book called The Art of War. And in The Art of War, that book is taught at all of our military academies. It's taught in all the Ivy League schools' MBA programs. It's taught at the University of Minnesota's MBA program. And in that book, Sun Tzu says, the best battle is the one you never have to fight. And you need to build your enemy a golden bridge to retreat. So this is all about building bridges to negotiate closure. Same kind of concept. How can I build bridges to work with you? So to get what you want, I said John Baker, I'm just reinforcing this with you. Know what you want, ask for it, give 3 reasons why. Now you're exit planners. So for example, you've been very successful and I want to help you continue with your success. Now you can put this in your own words, and these are 3 things I've just come up with. With key individuals, specialization players, we can save you time, money, and pain. The person doesn't have to meet with 6 different people. The person can meet with our team. Our team likely already knows you individually, but now we're going to ask you to engage us to go and work on your behalf with what we know and come back to you with a draft that you and your trusted advisor can look at and ask questions, and we can tweak it if need be. And at the end, you're going to have a plan that makes sense to you, that you will understand, and that takes into account your specific needs and offers you closure. And then be quiet and listen and hear what the questions are that your client has and answer those questions. And what is it going to cost? It's probably one of the first things that's going to come out. You need to have an answer for that. You're going to pay us X thousands of dollars to go ahead and do this. But it'll save you dollars because you would have had to talk with all 6 of us or 5 of us or whatever the given group might be. And now this is a one-time fee that we've worked out ahead of time of how we're going to do this to help you. So you need to think about all those things ahead of time and be prepared for the kind of questions that your client's going to have. And with that, you will be able to give your client a good presentation as to why your collaborative approach with your peers is going to work. So collaboration for exit planning and estate planning, these are 2 different things, but they're very much related. Again, old idea, collaboration, different parties involved. But who might the participants be? Estate planning is a little less complex. You have the trusted advisor, you have an attorney, it could be a tax attorney, you have a financial planner, a certified a CLU for insurance, you have a CPA, you have a business valuer, could be a business broker if they're actually going to try and sell the business, but you have the appropriate people that are going to be together to put together this estate planning team. And that's your group if you're talking about estate planning. But when you get into exit planning, there could be a lot more variables involved. Depends on the given situation. I'm not going to read all these names to you. You can read those. But these are examples. Like, for example, when you get into compensation expert or consultant, it could be an ESOP, a family business, marketing operations, strategic planning, a specific industry. There's lots of different folks that could be involved. And you want to think of who's going to sit around this table and how big does that table need to be? And do some of these people, might they be your consultants? So maybe it's going to be a tight group like this estate planning group. That's the key group. And it may be some of these others are ancillary. They don't have to be at the table, but they might provide you with information that you're going to present at the table. But you need to think about all these things ahead of time of who do we need to bring on board and what's their role going to be and who are going to be the key people that need to be at the table when we ultimately present to the client. Lots of people might be more than happy to go into great detail on all this information here, but what does the client really need to know? And can you give them a summary of some of these other folks that are not part of the key group, of whatever the key group might be, so that you can help your client to understand and feel very confident in what you've done. And once again, once you've done this, and you've been successful with this, and many of you already have, that client is your best advocate going forward. So getting a recommendation from that person and pivoting on this and having that person talk to peers in whatever organization or associations or societies that person belongs to can really help you going forward as well. I have a keynote presentation, and the keynote presentation is called, "It's Not About Me. It's All About We, but it starts with me." This slide says it's all about us. And I have 2 children, both married, one with no children, one with 2 little girls, 2 granddaughters to us. And we see them about once a week. They just live 10 minutes away. And I've referred to them as my life changed, that when I became a parent, my life went from BC, before children, to AC, after children. Major life change. When that happens, you realize it's all about us as a family. And now as you think about collaboration with your work, you can operate independently out of your home office or out of your office. But once you begin to think it's about us, and as we look at the client, us becomes part of that client group, and us becomes those that you need to collaborate with going forward that makes sense for that given client. So I comment, it's not about me. It's all about we, but it starts with me. And it is a process. That's one of the things to really understand about the collaboration effect, is that it really is a process. It's not, this is how you do it, these are the things, check it off and I'm there. It's dynamic in nature. It changes with the given group and with the given client and with whatever the expectations are. You want to look at your own diversity. Look at your own. I teach an element on communication, perspectives, and diversity. And when I teach that given element, I hand out a little sheet of paper. And I do this, send it out ahead of time. I say, fill this out. And we have primary elements of understanding our diversity. And then secondary elements that people can't see, like my education and other things. And then we have tertiary elements, like what's my preferred learning style? Or what's my personality type, if you've done something like Myers-Briggs and other types of sources. And then once you do that for yourself, you begin to say, what other diversity do I need to bring into our group? Well, I was a manager for over 25 years, and I've managed up to 1,200 employees. And one of the things that we all took was something called Myers-Briggs. If you've ever taken this, you know you get certain letters that go along with this, 4 letters. Well, my letters are ENTJ, without going into all the detail, but just 4 letters, ENTJ. Well, one of the elements inside here is I'm a strong in, which means strong intuitive. I see the big picture. I'm good at strategic planning. But I'm not so good sensory. The opposite of the in letter is the letter S, sensory. Well, I see the big picture. I can see where we're going. I can see how to get there. I'm ready to go. Well, luckily, I've always surrounded myself with people who are different than me, that have much stronger sensory perspectives. That is, they'll say, Mike, Wait a second. We need to think about this. Wait a second. Mike, there's a lot of details that need to be incorporated in this. So before we go too far, let's make sure we thought about all the details. Those people, I refer to it as, you keep me honest. I appreciate that. You ask good questions that I'm ready to go and I haven't thought through all the details. So think about your diversity and then the diversity of the people you have with you and who's going to help you stay focused, yet we want to have fun along the way. We want to have a sense of humor. We want to do a good job. You want to have a quality result. You want to have a satisfied customer when you're all done. So think about who can help you, given your diversity, with the team you're bringing together that's going to complement each other because you don't all look at things the same way. So look at your diversity and the diversity of the folks you're bringing onto the team. And when you do that, you're going to look at things and say, these are all things we have in common. Our minds are such in terms of neuroscience. We like to be with people who are like us. We like people to be of our tribe. We like to have things in common. We don't necessarily like folks that we have less in common with, or they're different from us in different ways. And in this case, having differences is good. Last night I happened to watch, just on TV, I happened to watch an old rerun of PT 109. You know, that's the story about John F. Kennedy, and he had his PT boat and it got wiped out, and they spent some time on an island in the Pacific and they weren't sure they're going to survive and they had to go to a different island. And at one point, one of the guys on his boat said, we're all going to die. We know we're going to die. We're not going to make it out of here. We don't have a chance. And John Kennedy, at least portrayed in the movie, at that point, he listened to that guy, he listened to another guy, and then he said, we're going to make it out of here. Okay, so he was very positive. Later, they're all saved. He's got that guy who was negative, comes into his office on a boat, on a ship, and he apologizes. And John Kennedy says, no, I'm glad you were here. And if I ever have this again, I want to have somebody just like you and a whole crew of people like you, because you spoke your mind and you said what you felt. And when you think of the diversity of your team, you need people who are going to say what they feel, know that they're going to be listened to, and that they are an equal partner with you on your team. So I'm picking up on that little line on the movie I happened to see a rerun on last night, and that's, there are things that are going to take place, but what we do want to have is we want to have common values. And the common values is that we care for each other. We're interested in giving the best result to my client. If you're working with people and their primary motive is what's best for me, that's not somebody you necessarily want to have on board with your team. You want somebody who's going to look out for what's best for your client. Have a team that's focused on that. And this time, it might mean that works out really well for me with my practice and with what I do. And maybe this time, it doesn't work out as well for me as it could have if I was doing this by myself. But once I understand the big picture, this is better for that client. Who do you think they want to hire for next time? Who do you think they want to recommend? They want to recommend the person that did what was best for them. And if they said, yep, this time there isn't something for me, or my role is relatively limited here, I can just be a consultant on this one. But by doing that, they are being a servant leader. They are being a servant leader because they're doing what is best for that ultimate client. And that's what you want to be known as. And if you're known as that, other benefits are going to come to you. Other rewards are going to come to you. Other recognition is going to come to you. And in the long run, you'll be much better off because folks will want to have you be part of their team. Sometimes we have to work with difficult people. I put this slide on here because sometimes we do have to work with very difficult people, and it's tough to work with difficult people. And I put this slide on here because I'm a mediator. I'm a mediator with the Supreme Court here in Minnesota. I typically do 2 to 4 mediations a month. That was prior to COVID-19. And I typically volunteer every month in housing court in Ramsey County. I live in Roseville. And I've been doing that since 2004, twice a month. And I deal with folks who are about to be evicted. That's a tough situation. You're a single mom, it's January, it's cold, you got 2 kids, you're about to live in your car. It's tough. Well, you're working with a landlord. Landlord needs to get paid. She lost her job. She lost her job because her car broke down. Her car broke down, she couldn't get to work. She had 2 part-time jobs, working 30 hours a week each job. She's having a hard time making it. She lost both jobs. She lost the jobs because she couldn't get to work. She made a decision. Feed my kids. Don't pay rent. She now has found 2 new jobs. She wants to put a payment plan together with her boss. We help put that payment plan together and she can stay in her house. This guy here, I put this in because I volunteer mediate in housing court, conciliation court, neighborhood disputes, in public housing, and between gangs. And it doesn't matter if I'm working with a Fortune 100 company and it's $1 billion issue, if it's a small business and it's tens of thousands of dollars, or I'm volunteering and it's something like this. It's all about values. It's relating to each other and connecting on values. It's not my beliefs, it's values. And we have to find that person, if treated with respect and understanding and dignity and being listened to, we can build trust and we can work with each other, even with difficult people. On the other hand, if somebody says, I don't want to work with you, that may just be the situation. You need to get that known as soon as possible and move on. Well, I told you I work with neuroscientists, but I'm not a neuroscience person. I'm not a neuroscientist. But just some brief commentary. That's the amygdala on the left. It's about the size of your thumbnails or about the size of an almond. You have 2 of them. And those amygdala are the things that when you start to get angry, they kick in. We've all lost it. We've all been flooded with chemicals. That's what it's called. You're flooded and you become very angry. It happens in 6 to 10 seconds. We know now from neuroscience when you become angry, those chemicals and hormones stay in your bloodstream for up to 22 hours or until you have a sleep cycle. But what stops you from getting angry is your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex is 5% of the brain mass. It's 25% of the energy. There's a little piece on the front of that prefrontal cortex about the thickness of a credit card, and that overrides the amygdala. That's why if you start to get angry at work, you don't blow off and yell at somebody at work. Your prefrontal cortex says, wait a minute, don't do that. But you might do that with family members, for example, and blow up, or at somebody else and blow up. Well, you have the ability to control that. And I'm going to give you a tool right now that we're going to practice with this. It's called the 5-15-10 rule. We're going to do this together. The 5-15-10 rule is you're going to breathe in for 5 seconds. You're going to hold it for 15 seconds. And you're going to let it go for 10 seconds. Everybody got that? I'm going to have you practice this with me here virtually. So when I say go, breathe in for 5 seconds. Use your diaphragm. Don't use your shoulders. Okay, ready? Everybody ready to go? Ready, set, go. Nice deep breath. Open the diaphragm, slowly bring it all in, and now hold it. You're going to hold it for 15 seconds. If you were in a meeting, you could count 1,000, 1,002, etc. But we're going to hold it for 15 seconds. And then after that, we're going to let it out slowly for 10. So are you ready? Let it out for 10. Ready? Slowly let it out for 10 seconds. We're halfway there. And now you're almost there. There you go. And now you've experienced the 5-15-10 rule. Well, what you just did is you gave yourself a slug of oxygen in your head. And it turns out when you get several slugs of oxygen, that makes our brain feel much better. I've been driving down the road and I've done this like 3 times. I'm tired, it's night, I'm having a hard time concentrating. Do that 3 times, I'm now more awake. If you're listening to a boring speaker like me, you don't want to be falling asleep in the audience, and you're with a group of people. Do this, it'll keep you awake with that boring speaker. If you're starting to get angry, and you've heard this before, if you're starting to get upset, take a deep breath. Well, that's a fallback position. That's the easiest one. Just take a deep breath. Or you might say, before you go into this tense negotiation or office setting, take 2 or 3 deep breaths. Well, those are, again, fallback positions. We've all heard those. But this 5-15-10 rule gives you a slug of extra oxygen in the brain that actually makes your brain feel like you're now more relaxed, you're calmer. And when you did this 5-15-10 rule, did you notice what you were doing? You weren't talking. And I commented earlier, listening is key. If you're not talking and the other person is, you're listening. And you're forcing yourself to think about your breathing, and you're calming yourself to not get angry. Well, in terms of emotions, I'm an analytical guy. I have a BS, an MS, I have an MBA. I'm your analytical guy, finance and accounting. And just to correct things, Julie, I'm not a CPA, but I am a CVA, Certified Valuation Analyst, but I'm not a CPA. I'm also an accredited senior appraiser in business valuation with the American Society of Appraisers, but again, I'm not a CPA. But I've learned in working with neuroscientists, I thought our brains must be at least 50% analytical, maybe 50% emotional. But I now know we're 98% emotional. Let that sink in. We're 98% emotional and 2% rational. If I ask you, how much is 2 plus 2? All of you came up with the number 4. Now you did this. You went, yeah, I know it, it's 4. You gave yourself a drop of dopamine in the brain to say, yes, I just rewarded myself. I knew the 2 plus 2 was 4. Now you didn't do this. Yes, it's 4. I got it. Hey, call on me. I got it. Number's 4. You didn't do that. But what you did do is you gave yourself an emotional positive reinforcement of dopamine that you knew the answer. In terms of priorities, we all have 3. Now, I don't know what your 3 priorities are. You can reflect on that for yourself. For me, it's faith, it's family, and fun. Now, I've been married for a long time, and working with my spouse, she'll share with you that I have an odd view of fun. But faith and family and fun really keep me rooted. I actually enjoy conflict resolution. I enjoy being a mediator. I enjoy negotiations. I enjoy asking questions to explore interests, to find commonality, to try to find a solution. But that's me. But you need to find out what your 3 priorities are. And in terms of impacts, we all look for food, water, sex, and shelter. If it's not helping me with one of those things, and I don't already know it's a good thing, my immediate response to anything else new, any kind of change, is negative. That's natural. That's survival. Now, as a manager, I learned to use the word opportunity. And my employees learned that sometimes when I would tell them, I have an opportunity for you, that meant there's something that's actually cool. And it could be something for training. It could be a particular project. It could be all sorts of different things. It could be really cool. It also meant sometimes it's one of those things that nobody really wants to do, but somebody has to do. And guess what? This time I have an opportunity for you that it's one of those things that, I'm sorry, I got to delegate this, and I'm going to ask you to help me with this. And we're going to talk about what delegation means. I have a handout on how to delegate properly with 16 points to it, the delegator's checklist. Or if you're a delegatee, the 8 points for a delegatee checklist to make sure you understand each other and checking in points and a whole bunch of different things. If you want to get those things from me after this session, my email is going to be on here. Send me an email. I'll be happy to send you the delegator's checklist if you want that. But the bottom line, in terms of impacts, is we look at things negatively. You do, I do. When I talk to you about collaboration with others, and unless you've done this already with others and then gone to a client, this concept I'm talking about may be foreign. It's a change. Your initial inclination is negative. Well, life is all about attitudes too. And if your attitude is it won't work, you know what? It won't work. If your attitude is let's try it and see if we can work, and this is a good client to do this on, and here's who I might want to collaborate with, and you reach out to others, and you're working collectively on this, that's our test. And when you do a test, you learn from that one to what you can do to improve with the next one. And you ask the client, what could we do to improve on the next one? Now, we're not going to do this. We're virtual today. But if we were together, and if we did get into a small group, I'd say, how do you connect with others at work? And how do you do that? With social media, with your networks and contacts? Now, in another book that I was asked to be a contributor for, I made a comment in terms of marketing as a home self-employed guy. And I have some things that I've learned. I'm very diligent about when I start my day, when I end my day. I'm diligent about the door is shut right next to me here. That means I'm in my office. When I leave this room, I'm out of my office. I'm in my home. And I know that I have to reach out to at least 3 people every day. I reach out to at least 3 people for marketing purposes every day. And on a weekly basis, I'm a professional speaker. I send out information to at least 100 different sources every week. Those are part of a discipline of I need to network and contact. I have 6 mentors. I'm meeting with one of my mentors in a Zoom meeting on Monday afternoon. I meet with these mentors every month to 3 months, depending. And I tell them where I'm at. I ask them where they're at. We talk about family. We talk about work. But I also talk to them about things in my business. And they've really helped me. And my first mentor I ever had, I hadn't had a small business. I'd been in an organization. I had 1,200 employees. I'm now going to be a small business guy. I went to one of my mentors. He's a CPA. he said, Mike, you have to physically get in front of 5 people a week. Wow, that was scary. And how do I get in front of 5 people a week? And we talked about this for an hour, about who I might reach out to, how I might reach out to them, with a phone call, with an email, I got myself a little set of cards at second-hand books. And these little cards, I'd write a note on it and ask if we could get together. And if I called you and I emailed you and I sent you that card and you still hadn't responded to me, okay, I'm moving on. But I would reach out 3 times, and I'd try to reach out to 5 people a week. My first quarter, I've been in business 9 years, my first quarter was a loss. I was taking people out for coffee. I was meeting them for coffee. I was taking them out for lunch. But in my first quarter, I got my first retainer. And I was so green at this, I didn't really understand what a retainer was. That was 9 years ago. I'm still with that client. They pay me so much every month, whether I work for them or not. I charge them at my hourly rate I get so much for the first 8 hours. Anything beyond that, I bill beyond that. Now, I got that retainer 9 years ago, and I'm still working with them and getting retained every month. I now have several other clients I have retainers with. I'm not doing this on bragging. I'm doing this on, my mentor told me I need to get in front of 5 people a week. Another mentor of mine said, Mike, you need to contact at least 3 people every day. So I've made some of those things part of my process. Social media, 2 newsletters today, they go out to 5,800 people every month. So look at your network, look at your contacts, look at other sources. Think outside the box. Who do you want to work with? How can you do that? You belong to an excellent chapter. You've got an outstanding president that you've had. You've got an outstanding president coming on board. You're a member of this organization. Are you going to leverage that? Are you going to reach out to these people? These are folks that are part of your future team, and make use of that team. So don't just, yeah, I'm here. I went to this session today. I heard some stuff. It was interesting. When you get done, we have a sheet you're filling out, and I'm asking you, what are 3 action items? Think about action items that you can take going forward. If I ask you how many sides are there to a coin, some say 2, some say 3. I bring this up to show you there are 3 sides to a coin. And the reason I do that is in any kind of conflict or in a collaboration, there's my side, there's your side, and there's the truth. What we need to do is figure out what is the truth here and what can we do collaboratively to help resolve whatever the situation is, the issue is, the conflict is, the goal of where we're going. But we have to listen to each other to get there. In terms of listening, I commented earlier and I said you need to paraphrase, summarize, ask open-ended questions, and empathize. But I want to tell you a couple of stories here about listening. The first was I was a frontline manager, and I had these 21 employees. I had 2 females, 19 males. It was a broad span, and I did very well. I left that position. I took over a new position. And in this group, I had 9 employees. I had 1 guy and 8 females. And about 2 weeks into that job, I knew something wasn't quite right, but I didn't know what it was. So I reached out to one of the employees there. Her name was Gail. And I said, you know, Gail, I just have a feeling something isn't quite right here, but I don't know what it is. Do you have any ideas? And Gail looked down and her face got kind of red. And she looked up at me and she said, well, Mike, there's times I come in your office and others come in your office and we ask you a question and you provide a solution. And sometimes we just want you to just listen. And I thought about this and I said, well, I'm a guy, I'm dense. I don't get it. I don't know when I should be listening versus when you ask me a question, I should provide a solution. And I thought as a manager, at that point, I was not as experienced. I thought as a manager, I was there to provide solutions. I didn't realize I really needed to listen more. So I said, I'm going to bring this up at a group meeting. So I brought it up at a group meeting. And I think the group actually felt sorry for me, in all honesty. But I said, I want to know when you come in the office, when you just want me to listen versus you want a solution. And I'm not picking up on body language or other things. And I'm not getting it. Can you help me? So the group, again, feeling sorry for me, I think they said, Mike, when we come to your office, we're going to knock on the door. Your door's open on the edge of the door. And we're going to use a code word. And the code word is blue. And if we say blue, that means we need to listen. So I'm working here. Here's my keyboard. I'm working. and somebody comes to the door, they knock, and they said, blue. Well, I had a chair with rollers. I push away from my desk. I roll over to a little round table I have here. It has 2 chairs there. And I bring in my chair. I grabbed a pad of paper and a pen on the way there. And I sat down, and all I did was listen. I summarized, I paraphrased, I asked open-ended questions, and I empathized. And I listened, and I took notes. And I reframed things. So if something was very negative, I might reframe it in a neutral term rather than in a negative term. And I helped them sort this out. And unless they asked me the question, Mike, what do you think? I provided no solutions. And you know what happened? 9 times out of 10, they figured it out themselves, just with the questions I asked. And when they left, they knew what to do. And because I asked them these questions and they learned this from me, I had less people coming to my door. Made it easier on me. And I had people coming to my door when they really wanted to get a solution from me instead of wanting to sort it out. But I also realized there are times I just needed to be there to listen. Well, for me, that was over 25 years ago. And that was an aha moment. I was so excited about this. I came home and I told my wife about it. You know what my wife said to me? You can do that at home too. Yes, you can do that at home too. This was money in the bank. I need to shut up more. I'm a very talkative guy. I'm a guy who loves to expound upon what I think. But what I learned is that's not what's needed for me to be more effective as a leader, as a manager, as a collaborator with others. I need to close my mouth more. I need to listen more. That really propelled me in my career to move up the ladder in the organization to the executive level, because I learned to come in and not talk so much and rather listen a lot more. I watched executives who want a major change schedule an hour meeting with all their employees and talk for 45 minutes with their team and leave 15 minutes for questions. And I learned to flip that on its head. I learned to say, we're going to talk about these changes for about 15 minutes. And then for you employees, we're going to allow 45 minutes for questions. Because I learned I need to listen to them and understand where they're coming from. I need to empathize. When somebody says, I think I'm going to lose my job, what am I going to do? Well, I need to say, we're going to do all we can to help you if that's going to happen. Our HR is committed. So I don't know right now that you're going to lose your job. But the point was, you don't just scurry about those and sweep them off to the side and pretend they don't exist. The Minnesota Nice says, we don't talk about certain things. Well, the Minnesota Nice has to be set aside. And instead, we need to take a look at those difficult questions. We need to listen. We want to encourage people to interact with us. So in terms of listening, as I say, that was money in the bank. And having gone through this, I just want you to learn from that and apply that too. So the keys to active listening are to paraphrase, summarize, ask open-ended questions, and empathize. And then with that, you don't want to own the road. Instead, you want to share the road. And on sharing the road, that doesn't mean we each get half the road. Doesn't mean I get the middle half. There are still boundaries there. You've got a double yellow line, not to cross that and pass and possibly get killed with a head-on collision. You want to share the road, but also understand what the boundaries are with yourself and the other party. So a question I want you to just think about. What would it take for you to change what you're doing right now and take advantage of the collaboration effect? What would you have to do differently? Just think about that a moment. What would you have to do differently? Starting today, what are some things I can do to approach what I'm doing differently so I could collaborate better with others going forward? Well, there's something called the collaboration effect. And one of the things that, Mark, I actually don't remember if I sent these out to you or not, but if I didn't, I will send this to you immediately after today's session. I've got a little pocket guide. It's called the collaboration effect. It looks like this. It's a trifold, but I'll send you an electronic copy. Well, I give away about 3,000 of these a year at different presentations around the country. I make over 50 presentations a year around the country to different groups, just as I'm making this one to you. I try to do 2 per month where they're at no charge. So my presentation to you, this is a philanthropic presentation. I'm just doing this for fun. I enjoy doing this, and I think you can learn from this. But inside this trifold, the first thing in here is the connecting relationships. Search on social media, network with others, discover common interests. Then listening actively. Listen with 100% attention. Ask open-ended questions. Check for understanding. Questions like, or statements like, tell me more. Educate judiciously. Comment honestly and concretely. Stand ready in spirit of helpfulness. Demonstrate expertise humbly. Again, we have all this stuff we want to share because we know so much, but that's not what they need. And then right next to that, inside the trifold on the second page, it says elements about connecting relationships with 6 bullet points. But then there are 6 bullet points on listening actively. And the first question is my favorite question. What would you like to have happen? And then just listen to that. It doesn't matter if I'm dealing with a Fortune 100 company and I'm talking with them about possibly doing a mediation between them and another company. It's a $1 billion issue. And I'm talking to a member of their board of directors, it's their corporate counsel. As I'm talking with them, I'm asking them, what would you like to have happen? And then I'm going to tell you, I'm working with a gang member. These people have killed each other on each other's gang. One of the gang member leaders lost a brother to the other gang. There is hate here that you can't imagine. And I had to ask that one gang leader about a dozen times in different ways, what would you like to have happen? And I finally got there. And when I finally got there, and the guy said, if I make peace with them, I'm dead, because my own gang members are going to kill me. A couple guys in my own gang will kill me. And if I don't make peace with them, I'm dead, because they're going to kill me. And he said, can you put me in the witness protection program? And I said, I'm just a mediator. I have no authority to do anything like that. But I tell you what, who are the guys that want to kill you? So it's this guy, and he has 2 guys who, if he reaches an agreement with them, they're going to kill him. And I said, well, let's make the decision that you're not the decision maker anymore. Do you have other people who want to make peace with the other gang? Yes. Well, let's bring on 3 of them. So now these 2 people over here who don't want peace, now you have 4 people, including one guy who lost another sibling, who want peace. And you're going to make a consensus decision of whatever you're going to do with the other gang. So it's not just you, which allowed that person, once I understood what he wanted to have happen, he wanted to survive. He wanted to live, but he also wanted peace, and he didn't know how to get there. And that was the way they could get there. Why? Because I finally found out what he'd like to have happen was also live. So having said that, this little pocket guide, again, I'll send this off to you, Mark, if you don't have it. I don't remember if I sent it to you or not, but this is my next book. I've written 11 books. I've collaborated on 2. I have my 13th book. I'm in the 2nd round right now of editing on that book. It's going to involve the collaboration effect. And it's got just a number of elements that relate to this topic, but in a greater number. But this also is just a summary of what's in the collaboration effect. And I look at this as, this is very handy, that when you're stuck, you're working with somebody difficult, you are stuck, you're wondering, what are some things I might want to ask, or how could I ask them? This is at least a starting point. And in the back of the collaboration effect, it says, be tough on the problem and gentle on the people. Focus on the problem. Do not get angry at other people. I refer to this as avoid the 2 stinky twins of BO and BS. And BO is blaming others, and BS is blaming self. It also says, acknowledge your emotions and theirs, again, without blame. And you know the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. Well, you've probably heard of the platinum rule, and that's in here. Treat others as they would like to be treated. I live in a diverse neighborhood. My next door neighbors are Muslim. They're from, I just have a mental blank. They're from East Africa. My neighbors on this side, they're originally from Laos. These folks are Buddhists. These folks behind me, they're Muslim. I'm a Christian guy. If I'm going to treat others as I want to be treated, I need to learn more. And instead, the platinum rule says treat them as they want to be treated. So with my neighbors next door, they're Muslim. They have a time during the year called Ramadan. And during Ramadan, they don't eat or drink water from sunup to sundown. And when they don't drink water from sunup to sundown, you want to be sensitive to that. So my wife, she's an avid baker. She bakes cookies and she bakes bread every week. And we give bread and cookies away to people all the time. I get all the benefits. She does all the work. But during Ramadan would not be the time to bring over cookies or bread during the day. But when Ramadan's over and they have a celebration at the end of Ramadan, that's a great time to bring over some cookies, okay? but you want to be sensitive to their perspective rather than your own. And oftentimes we put our perspective and what we think rather than what we need to find out their perspective is and what they need and they want. But I use that as an example on the collaboration effect. You need to do that with your customer. You might think this is what they need. You might have an expertise with this is what they need. But you need to work with your team and find out what is it they really need, what is it they really want, and how can I help? And then instead of I, with the collaboration effect, it's all about what can we do collectively to help out this other client party going forward. So the collaboration effect, you've learned it's all about enhancing relationships, connecting relationships, engaging with others. I have a story about this on an activity I was involved with a client, and the client was about to, was a CPA firm, and the CPA firm had received penalties from the IRS on the firm, on 2 partners, and on 2 of the accountants, according to the penalty coordinator for a given part of a division in the IRS. And I looked at this and I found out that penalty coordinator, unfortunately, crossed a line, became emotionally involved, and was out to get this firm. So as I looked at the penalty, I realized this penalty should never have been applied to this firm. So I was brought on board to assist with that penalty with this IRS, with this accounting firm. And there were 3 other attorneys involved, and I'm not an attorney. But we were going to be at appeals. And if they lose at appeals on any of these, the firm's going to be out of business. This is a major thing. So they need to have these eliminated for all 5 penalties on all 5 people. But before we did this, I said on the collaboration effect, the first thing is enhancing relationships. I need to learn all I can about that appeals officer. I found him on Facebook. I found him on LinkedIn. He accepted my offer to connect with him in these different arenas. I researched all sorts of things about that appeals officer. When we got together, we're all together in a room for the first day of this appeals session. It's in a different part of the country. And it's set up for the full day. And he says, well, there are 5 issues here. And of the 5, I think 2 of them, you're in pretty good shape, taxpayer. 3 of them, I think the IRS is in really good shape here. We've done our homework, and I can tell you the IRS was not in good shape on any of those 5 with how penalties should be applied. So in that scenario, when we took a break, we walked down the hall. I walked down the hall with this guy. And I just said to this guy, because I had done research, and I knew ahead of time he'd been in the Army. And I knew he'd been an Army Ranger. And I knew at one point, with his 3 years in the Army, he was a platoon leader. That means he had real leadership capabilities. Well, I know something about the military. So as we're walking down the hall, I knew this about this guy. I said, hey, have you ever been in the military? And the guy said, yeah, I was. I said, what branch were you in? He said, the Army. I said, what'd you do in the Army? He says, I was an Army Ranger. I said, really, where were you? And he said, I was in Alaska. It was actually a fun thing. I never got deployed overseas, but they would drop us somewhere and say, 3 days, you need to be at this point. We had to figure out how to get there. It was really kind of fun to do that. And I said, were you ever a platoon leader? He goes, yeah. He's proud. Yeah, I was a platoon leader. I said, good for you. Congratulations. And then I said to him, my son was in the Army. He was in Special Forces. He lost his left knee. He lost 9 inches of bone below his left knee. So he's got a steel plate below his knee, and he's got a cadaver kneecap on his knee for his kneecap. Do you think we bonded better and engaged better in that scenario? And I would say in terms of connecting relationships, even though we just had that short discussion, we began to engage better. And then later in the day, I knew this guy had been in a combination MBA program and law school program with where he went to law school. And he spent a year in China, in Hong Kong, working on the stock market there. So he'd been to China. So I then asked him another question. I said, you ever been outside the US? He said, yeah. I said, where'd you go? He said, China. I said, where were you? Hong Kong. He said, what'd you think of the experience? And we talked about that. And then I said, oh, I'm up in the Twin Cities. There are a lot of Chinese students from mainland China at the University of Minnesota. And on the St. Paul campus, they have something called the Hospitality Center for Chinese. I said, I volunteer there and teach elements related to American culture and English to these Chinese students. And after I'd done that for a few years, I took my whole family to Beijing. And we actually visited some of the students that had been here at the University of Minnesota. And so we were able to tie in some elements with China with one another. Well, at the end of the day, at the end of that 8-hour day, he said, when I started the day, I wasn't so sure. And again, we did our homework. I'm just talking about enhancing relationships. I'm not talking about how you educate judiciously, but just enhancing relationships. At the end of the day, he said, well, you know, on these 5 things, I started the day with a very different perspective. But here at the end of the day, I really think you have a case for all 5 issues. And I'm right now leaning towards dropping all 5 issues. But I can't tell you that yet for sure. I need to do some more homework. I need to talk with some other folks. But I'll get back to you within 3 weeks. And within 3 weeks, he got back to us and he said, I have decided to drop the penalty on all 5 areas. And they were dismissed. Well, I tell you that story because enhancing relationships is real. The resources is, again, you can avoid rework and quality lost and emotional toil and physical toil when we collaborate and work together. And in terms of revenues, you'll bring in additional revenue. You will expand your horizons in terms of where you can go and what you want to do and how you can grow if you apply this collaboration effect. It's all about connecting relationships, listening actively, educating judiciously, which leads to negotiating closure. And I can tell you, in major firms, the vice presidents oftentimes have an orientation towards their given division and what they work in. But I work with C-suite people. And I can tell you, in major corporations, the C-suite people, they want closure. Closure is more important because if we can close out something, we can move on to the next thing. We don't have to put in our emotion and our energy and our time and our money to something that we'd like to get past and go forward. So I commented, it's not about me, it's all about we, but it starts with me. And I comment in this slide, it's all about us. This is what it's like with family. This is what you want to do in terms of your collaboration. Have trust with each other, just like your family. So this is a session on collaboration for exit planners, part 1. Before we leave this, a couple other things. You have a 1 sheet that was sent to you ahead of time. And I asked if you would print that out. And I'll tell you, in terms of connecting and retaining information, it turns out if we write it down, we're much more likely to retain this going forward, looking 3 weeks out and 3 months out. So I'd ask you to pull out that piece of paper if you've got it. If you don't, you can just follow along. But here's the sheet. Participant's guide, it's not about me. The collaboration effect enhances relationships, resources, and revenues. The collaboration effect is all about, the first word is connecting. So write in there, connecting relationships. Actively listening. Write in the word listening. Educating judiciously. Write in the word educating. So connecting, listening, educating. Leading to negotiating closure. Collaboration is the action of working with someone to produce or create something. You only have 6 to 10 seconds to stop the amygdala from flooding. You cannot push a rope. You can only pull a rope. So if somebody doesn't want to work with you, just move on. We are in this together. We is the key. Enhancing relationships is all about really connecting at a personal level, finding ways to connect with others through social media, networks, and brainstorming other ideas. Enhancing relationships with communication, conversation, discussion, and listening. The next 2 items to fill in are active listening. Active listening involves paraphrasing, summarizing, asking open-ended questions, and empathizing. Overcome conflict with collaboration by centering ourselves. I'm a mediator, I mentioned that earlier, and before I go into any mediation, I read the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. The reason I do that is in that prayer it says, help me not so much to be understood as to understand, not so much to be consoled as to console. So I put myself into a mind frame to center myself, calming the fire. You want to be there to help. That's your motive. You're being there to help. You can center yourself with prayer, reflection, meditation. Practice the art of meditation. You can see all kinds of things on the internet with mindfulness. And we now know our religious perspectives that we have applied from neuroscience, say at least 10 minutes a day of prayer or reflection or meditation clears that prefrontal cortex. It's like rebooting your computer, and it allows you to take away stress. And for people who've done this over a period of at least 3 weeks, they are calmer and lower their blood pressure when they do this. So my question to you now are, what are 3 actions I can implement as a result of today's presentation to help me and my team going forward? So I'm going to ask you to think about that and write down 3 things. What are 3 things that I can implement as a result of today's presentation to help me and my team going forward with what you heard here today? And hopefully you have some ideas of what you can do. And I want to share with you while you're doing that, it's just an advertisement for next month. I interacted with Joshua Bobbich, he's an attorney, Brent Engelbrecht, he's a business broker, and Ryan Stetmater, he's a CPA, and they're going to be presenting next month. But instead of just the overview of things I presented with you with the who and with what and an element of how, they're going to spend more time with you in part 2 on making collaboration work in the exit planning process with more details and down into the weeds, because this is what they do. And before I leave, I'm just going to give you one last quick story. And the story is why I do what I do. I was a assistant director here with 1,200 employees in the Twin Cities. And we had about 30 what are called equal employment opportunity. We had grievances, and we had unfair labor practice things with the union and management. And I went to a different part of the country, and they didn't have 30. They had 300, so 10 times as many, and they were the same size district. But I was only the assistant director. So I said to the director after a week, would you like me to try to address this? And I had mediation training and done mediation things. And he said, okay, but you got to work with the people here. And he said, you need to keep me informed weekly, and then labor relations and equal employment opportunity, the union, HR, labor relations, the management and management at the top level, the mid-level and frontline level. But if you can get them all together, go ahead. So we did a bunch of things. And 4.5 months later, I was leaving. And if I've gone on details and worked somewhere for 4 or 5 months, which I did many times in my career, they have a coffee for you. Typically 20 people show up, and 10 are there because they like to actually suck up with the director, the assistant director, but 10 people are there because you make friends in 4 or 5 months. And it usually lasts an hour. Well, at that location that I was at, 600 people showed up. I'm sorry, numbers are wrong. 400 people showed up, and it lasted 6 hours. And that changed my life. That changed my life. So I have a passion for conflict resolution. I have a passion for bringing people together. I have a passion for collaboration, and I know it can work and make lives better. So in the end, I have found in feedback from my presentations and working with my clients, people are more focused going forward. They feel more confident when working difficult situations, and they're more at peace, both at work and at home. So I hope with this presentation, this has been helpful to you. And what I'm going to do is open this up for questions for a few minutes on any questions or comments that any of you might have. And back to you, Mark.
All right, Mike, great job. Boy, that, you know, I wish you could all hear us clapping, but I think that was outstanding. We'll let a few people use the chat feature if you do have any questions. I made a few notes, and I think, and I'll just use this little time while people are maybe typing in, if any. It says, focus on being interested, not being interesting. I like that. I like we're talking about diversity in our own office, and I like the part about the diversity of the team, and that you know, celebrate the fact that people say what they want, and that they feel strong, but they're on the team because they have common values. I really like that. I like the idea of taking a slug of oxygen. That the 5, 15, and 10-second thing was great. Active listening. I think I'm going to give that a try with my wife tonight. I think that's a good idea. I can imagine the success that you had there. Know what you want, ask for it, and then give 3 reasons why. That John Baker book, I looked that up. That sounds like that would be worthwhile. You know, I really like the collaboration effect. I liked the website Collab Effect. Mm-hmm. So it's shortened up the word collaboration, but collabeffect.com. And that's how they can get a hold of you and circle back too if you want to note that. Julie, did you have any remarks?
I guess I just echo what Mark said, because I took a lot of notes myself, and I think that as advisors, you know, we've learned a lot. We've got a lot of experience. We have a lot of, you know, education and credentials and things like that. And we want people to know how much we know, right? That's kind of how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the adage, and I use it a lot, is when it comes to business owners, they don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so flooding them with information and using industry jargon that they don't understand is not going to impress. It's just going to push them away. And you really underlined and emphasized that, so I really appreciate that. The one thing that I was wondering about that I had put in the chat box just to you, Mike, was, you know, that 98% emotional and 2% rational explains a lot to me. I'm even though I'm a woman, I don't tend to be quite as emotional as most women are for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I'm more of a guy than a girl. I don't know. But anyway, but I have some really emotional people in my life, and that explains a lot. And so thanks for bringing that up. I'd be interested to find out where you got that.
I'll share that with you, Julie, because I know we have limited time.
Yeah.
I would encourage anybody to go on Google and put in Mike Greg, so MikeGreg /blog.
Okay.
And then space, and then your question. What you're looking for is 98% emotional.
Okay.
And I have a couple blogs on that, and I tie back into some research that was done in California. And there's a mediator in California that he's the one that I saw first come up with that. I can't remember the guy's name, but my blog, I've written on it. We'll bring that up.
Awesome.
And then I see your second question here too. Can you correlate our natural resistance to business owners who resist exit?
Right.
How do you recommend we address this topic with our business owner clients? Well, that's a very broad question, and in a minute I can't answer that. But what I again will come back to is maybe your question, and I'm rephrasing this. If your question is something like, how do I deal with difficult people? I'm just using that as an example. If you again go to my blog, just go to my website, mikegreg.com, and you click on blog, and on the left side you'll see a bunch of categories. And one of them is how to work with difficult people. And I have around 70 articles on how to work with difficult people. So part of this is, and you know this, and again, we just don't have time, but you've got a grid here. And the grid is those that financially are not able to retire and those that financially are able to. And on the other side, you've got those that emotionally are not ready to retire and those that emotionally are ready to retire. And of course, your sweet spot is those that financially can do it and are ready to retire. That's your sweet spot. Okay.
Right.
But now, what if you're dealing with somebody who's not in the sweet spot? You're dealing with somebody that's not in the sweet spot. Can you help the person that financially isn't there? Can you help as a consultant or get someone as a consultant? So there's something out there called core value software and something that business valuers use and help them get their business better. That's one thing. And if they're emotionally not ready to retire and exit, why aren't they? And it's often because that business, if they have 2 kids, that business is their 3rd child. They're emotionally tied to that business.
Right.
And they care what happens to those people in that business. And so the more that you can help them with, have you thought about some different options? And this is, again, just helping them say, well, if you want your employees maybe to take over, there's something called an employee stock option plan. I'm just giving you soundbite things. But if you understand, and part of this is that connecting relationship so you can get to their interests. I told you the gang leader story. Until it was, I got people who want to kill me on both sides, until I finally got there, which I didn't understand, then I could start to deal with that. With this owner who doesn't want to and is resisting this, why is that? And I come in on cases like this, you know this, Julie, when they don't work. I'm a conflict resolution guy. And so I've come in, and an example things that I've heard is, I'd like my son to take over, okay? He's got the business sense, but he drinks a lot. And I'm concerned he's an alcoholic. And I'm nervous about giving him the business. And they came up with a plan that said, you know, son, this is with time. Didn't just happen that day. We're worried about that. And they finally had a family discussion. If you're willing to join AA, you can be sober at least a year. We can look at transitioning this business to you. Do you want to do that or not? And I'll just say 2 years later, it came to pass. So we're oftentimes looking for quick fixes. It's not necessarily going to be a quick fix,
No.
but you gotta understand where they're coming from. And that's not something that somebody's going to just say to you, hey, you know what? I think my son's an alcoholic and I want to have him take over the business, but I'm nervous about him taking over because he's an alcoholic. They're not going to just say that to you day one. But when you build the connecting relationship and you really begin to understand and they can open up and trust you, it's amazing what you can find out. Hopefully that helps. That's a soundbite.
Awesome, thank you. And good resources for us to look up and Google.
Right.
Thanks for presenting today and for sharing your knowledge. We really appreciate it. Hope to have you back. And it sounds like you're doing really well. So it's good to see you again, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. Same here, Julie. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, everybody, for being on board with us today.
Absolutely. Thank
So,
you.
Mark and I just got a couple of announcements. If you could just hang on for another minute or two. We had talked in the past about doing another owners forum this year, and ACG, because they do so much work for the owners forum and they've got the muscle and the infrastructure to be able to do that, are actually going to take over running the owners forum. And so EPI has an opportunity to sponsor as an organization along with a couple of other organizations in the Twin Cities, Club Entrepreneur and AMNAA. And so our role will be as a co-host, not as an organizer. And so we'll still be involved. We'll still have our Twin Cities chapter logo on there. And there's a budget for that. But I wanted to let you know too, we had talked about it being in October, but ACG decided to have it in November, on November 10th, and it will be virtual. But if you want to put a hold on your calendar for November 10th, it's going to be a really good event. Finance and commerce is involved. And, we're going to have breakouts. We'll have panel discussions. We'll have keynote speakers just like we normally do. It'll just be a half day. And so I think we're running 8 to noon or something like that. But just stay tuned on that if you want to mark your calendar and just hold that time. It'll be a great way for you to invite all of your business owner clients and prospects from all over, right? Doesn't have to be local. They can be coming from anywhere, which is the beauty of being able to do it virtually. So I just wanted to announce that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Julie. I saw a little preview of some of the stuff that's going on with that, and I'm really looking forward to that. We do have clients all over the country too, and I imagine many of you do. So that's a great opportunity. And we've got part 2 of collaboration for exit planners coming up next month on September 10th at our normal time. You can start to log in at 7:30. We'll get started at 7:45 and finish up like we are today. We've got 3 great speakers that Mike pointed out that'll be a panel, and we're looking forward to that. Also on November 12th, we're going to have a divorce and exit planning session, and that'll be given by a couple of attorneys who specialize in this area with business owners and family law. So that is what we've got coming up in addition to the Owners Forum. I'm just going to quickly check and see if there's any last comments on the chat function. No, just great work. A lot of comments that way. So thank you guys very much. It was a great August meeting. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. We're not going to get to go to the state fair, but you can go find some state fair food someplace. And we'll see you next month. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Mark. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.